Hello, everyone. This is Kevin Giebert, and you are watching The C.A.T Show. I am a financial planner, life coach, author, and sometimes lyricist. And today we're talking with M.K. Mann, who is the author of Phoenix Rising, a poetic tale. And there she is with her book already. So, MK, welcome to the show. CAT means creative and analytical thinking. So, I, as a financial planner, I am much, analytical, but the creative side with my book, Financial Photographs, How to Talk to Your Family About Money, and the upcoming book called Don't Be Chicken with Your Moolah, Be Smart, is adding some sort of creativity to the conversation of money. And I was once told that a song is only a poem until you add music or notes to it, right? So I have probably not as good as you, of course, but I have what I call ABBA-sized things. So ABBA, ABAB, AABB, ABCA, that sort of thing. So without further ado, let's just tell us, welcome to the neighborhood here, and just tell us who you are, where you are, why you thought of spending hours on hours being an author.
Okay. So I'm an author and an educator in Vancouver, BC. I've been an educator for over 10 years, and I have a background in psychology and education, and I've done a lot of language and literacy courses throughout my time at UBC. And writing has always been my passion forever, since I can remember as a young child, all throughout my high school years. And so I decided to take my collection of poetry and put it together. And the way this book came about was very organic. And I was able to take my poetry and organize it into a way where it told a story. And so this poetry book, I find is very different from maybe most you might find at your local bookstore, because it's 10 chapters and each chapter covers a different time period in a person's life. So it's sort of a coming of age story that starts from childhood. It talks about your teenage years, your first young love. It talks about loss of life, death, grief, things that most humans experience and go through once in their lifetime. It also talks about a breakdown of relationships, the heartache, and it talks about motherhood. It also discusses how do you basically find the strength to get through the challenges that life throws your way, and how do you find your true inner self and be authentic and real, and what is happiness, and how can you find that in your life, regardless of the challenges that your life may be going through.
Awesome. And with my book, I based it on, my mom was big on pictures and that sort of thing, and conversations around pictures. Mm-hmm. So with you writing the book, is it fully fiction, or is there some nonfiction, meaning that is there some personal stories in there?
So there's definitely, I would say, some personal stories in here. So this book, I wanted it to speak to a lot of women, and most of the stuff in here, I find that we experience as humans, all of us, different feelings, thoughts, emotions. And so it's all written through poetry, which is the interesting part. So you're not reading a novel, but it's like you're reading a novel, because each chapter builds upon the previous one. And when you read the whole book together, it's like a story, but it's all told through poetry. And most of the poetry I have is taken with stories I've had other people share with me, experiences they've had. And most of these experiences are life experiences that most people will have in their lifetime. So I have definitely taken some aspects of my own personal life and put that in here as well. So it's a good mix of both.
And how have you used your expertise on the psychology side, all your schooling in all regards to that? Because, I wrote my book as a certified financial planner rather than just someone that, wrote a money book, right? Mm-hmm. So how did you find having that background, the educational background, help you write this book?
I think it helped me in the way that I'm good with words. Like I like putting words together to really have a good emphasis, a good wow factor. So I started sharing my poetry through my Instagram page, and I had a lot of people respond back to me and say, "Oh, this poem really spoke to me," or "This really
Mhm.
resonated with me," or "Those lines were so deep," or "I felt a lot of wisdom in this poem." Right? So there's a lot of different types of poetry in here. Some you will read and be like, "Oh, this takes me back to my childhood," right?
Mhm.
Or this takes me back to, "Oh, I remember my first love or my first kiss," or
Yeah.
this talks about motherhood. And especially the chapter on motherhood, I find that there's a lot of women out there that there's so much they hold in that they don't talk about the bad, the ugly of motherhood, right? The stress or the burnout. So there's a lot of stuff that I wanted to touch on and sort of let everyone know, like, hey, it's okay to feel like this, or it's okay to have these feelings or these thoughts, and we're all normal and we're all human, and it's okay to be perfectly messy in life.
And were you a good poetry student back in the day when we were in high school?
So yeah, in high school, I would write poems, and they would be published in my high school's yearbook. So I
Okay.
actually grew up in Richmond, and yeah, so they would be published there as well
So
throughout.
in your grade 12 picture, did you say, future author?
I'm sure it's in there somewhere. It's something that everyone who's known me as a child, they all know that, hey, she loves to write. So I remember spending summers at my grandparents' house, and they didn't have a lot of toys, but I remember my grandmother gave me a big stack of paper and a pen. Here you go, entertain yourself. And so I said, okay. And I used a lot of my imagination and just being creative. And I would just think of stories. And I find poetry is a good way to sort of communicate what you're thinking or feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these poems were read at like weddings, for like speeches. And some of these are about like loss of life and death and grief. And so some of these were shared at funerals, read at
Mm-hmm.
a funeral. So it's just giving people the words or the poetry to express what they may be going through in life.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I know, like, I won't, I'm not a poet at all, but I find the writing process very relaxing.
Yes.
So in the world of finances and money and all that stuff and some family stuff, stress is a big deal in life, right?
Mhm.
And I found that even writing, like, I have an album coming out with 14 songs, and I found that over the last 14 months or so, me writing, it was such a de-stressor just writing, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, okay, it was cool when things came together in rhymes and all that stuff, right? But in regards to back in high school, like, I was, English just wasn't the favorite subject because it was always poetry and short stories and this and that, right?
Mhm.
And I look back now, if I knew, if I was like I was here when I was in high school, I probably would have got a bigger start on what I do as a living right now, right? So
Mhm.
and yeah, no, and then once you start writing, then you get a bit bigger appreciation for other people that do it for a living, and that sort of thing, right? And I know through my book, it was just a bunch of writings, and it was a fun process to get that published 6 years ago. And right now, it's for the second book, it's kind of like, okay, well, I'm mixing cooking chicken recipes with the book, right? So I'm just putting a little bit of a creative spin on it, right? Kind of like you have a story with Phoenix Rising and so forth. So can you kind of just give us a couple examples of just picking whatever chapter or poem you'd like to do, whether it's a page or whatever have you?
Sure. So I can share a couple for
Yeah.
sure.
So maybe give us the background, because you said there's 10 chapters, right?
Mhm.
So maybe just start with the chapter and the kind of painting the picture, so to speak, and then the reading.
Sure. So just to give a quick overview, it's called Phoenix Rising, a Poetic Tale. And I can even just tell you a little bit about the
Yeah,
title as well. So
go for it.
the story of the phoenix, right? It's a mythical bird, And so this came to me because when I put this together, you could see the progression from the beginning chapters to the end. So it's sort of, you're finding yourself, and then, like Travis, like this tragic events happen in your life, and you may feel lost. You may feel like, oh, this is the end of the world for me. And then through that, the phoenix bird, it's basically, it's reborn in the fire. So it dies in the fire, but then it's reborn. And so the chapters are based on the life stages of the phoenix. So the 10 chapters are called, the first one is called The Nest. So the nest is about childhood. Chapter 2 is called Sparks. Chapter 3 is Flames. Chapter 4 is Burning. Chapter 5 is Ashes. Chapter 6 is Birth. So this is when you're like reborn. Chapter 7 is Rising. So you're rising out of the, the tragic life events. Chapter 8 is Soaring, which is sort of letting go. And chapter 9 is Resurrected. So it's, you have now become a new person. That's your growth, your transformation. And then chapter 10, the last chapter, is Reborn. So this is sort of the point in your life where everything makes sense and everything comes together. And it's like you find your true calling, you find your purpose in life. So one of the poems I guess I can share is called Out of Balance. So some of the poems just make you stop and think about your own life and like, am I living my best life? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Am I following my calling in life, my fullest potential? So Out of Balance says, the reason for my insomnia is simple indeed. My spirit is out of balance with my inner beliefs. I am living a lie that my heart cannot understand. My moral compass is spinning with all the unrest. Insomnia will never cease to be until you align yourself with whom you truly want to be. So that was one I thought just makes you kind of stop and think about everything you're doing in your life. And maybe all the unrest you're feeling is for a reason, for a purpose. And it's wanting you to change those aspects of your life.
And you're usually
you
thinking of that when you're trying to get to sleep too.
Yeah, so that's why it's called Out of Balance, because you are out of balance with your life. Let's see. So another one that a lot of people really seem to like in this book, and they would message me about it, was called Me. And so this one talks about where you're feeling lost, and then you have to rediscover like, hey, wait, who am I, and who did I used to be, and am I still that person? Am I still being true and authentic to who I am, and not who the world wants you to be?
Exactly.
All the pressures of society. So this one is called Me, and it goes like this. I am searching for her frantically, lost her years ago, slowly faded from memory, erased the smile from her face. Her voice lost in the wind, her spirit buried beneath. I am searching for her desperately. I urgently need her now. Her vital strength, her glorious crown. Where is me lost within?
Great. So you're actually getting like the reader feedback on your book, and that is awesome, because I think some things you're touching on, touches on the life coaching world and everything that we go through as normal people, right? And it's just great to just sit down and be able to read and have an appreciation of that, and really reach out and say, hey, this is really me, right? Rather than, oh my goodness, I need to be perfect in this world, and I need to have all my ducks in a row and all that stuff, right?
And just to learn to enjoy the present moment that you are in. If we're always striving for the next thing, the next big thing, or we're always looking that way, but we're not enjoying the present moment, I feel that a lot of people forget that.
Yeah, and I'm a big one of enjoying life, right? Not having what ifs. Right. Because when we live in today's society, it's like, oh, go, right? And then we die.
Exactly. Right. Then you look back in hindsight.
Yeah. And one of the, like, my mom, in April 2015, she passed away. And so when she was in palliative, I was looking, I said, you know, Mom, I hope that you're thinking of memories and not what ifs. Right. And that's one of my songs that I put in, the thinking of memories, you know, when the day has come, you know, I don't know the exact lyrics, but you know, you're not, it's a bunch of memories, not a bunch of what ifs. Right. And I think if we can live a life that's as full as possible and not have to worry about, well, what if we did this or what if we did that, because we just didn't slow down and just think about, you know, what we have and so forth, right? We don't think about me because we're often thinking about others. And if you don't think about me first, you know, setting a foundation for yourself, you can't really even help others either, right? So I don't know if there's a perfect parallel there, but it's just one of those things when in life, and it's nice to be able just to enjoy things. And when it comes to writing, like I never knew I enjoyed writing until I started writing, right?
Exactly. It's very therapeutic.
Exactly. And it's not one of those things where, okay, I'm not a good writer. Well, if you don't try, right, you might not be writing poems, you might be just writing words that turn into stories that somebody can relate to, just like you've written a book. Like my book, you know, Financial Photographs, How to Talk About Family, about money with family. Money is a taboo, right? Just like other things, don't talk about money, right? But I presented over a picture. So when people look at family pictures, well, there's a story. Hopefully they're good stories, right? But, or looking at, okay, if I'm going to take the next picture, what is it going to look like, right? So when you know, when I was writing my album, the lyrics, it's like, well, okay, well, these a bunch of words, you know, they don't always have to rhyme, right? I'm not a good poet, but I'm going to do this because it's therapeutic for myself. And hey, something came out of it, right? And having that feedback, like you're saying, is the greatest thing. Is you know, writing something and then knowing that you've inspired somebody else, right? So how are you using? I know you have a newsletter. So how are you, if someone goes to your website, and below I'll be posting for all people who are watching it, below we'll have the website link and all that stuff. But tell us a little bit about someone that would go to your website, sign up for the newsletter. What kind of things do you try to pass along through the newsletter?
So a newsletter will be a great way to just stay in contact with all the different works that I will be working on. I'm currently working on my second book, which is
awesome.
Done. And so I'm looking to release that early next year. And on my website, you can have direct contact with me. So there's a contact me page there. You can email me. And my goal is to basically motivate and inspire people. This is like a self-help book. This is a book to make you stop and think about your life, give you the strength to maybe do what you're afraid to do. And also my author Instagram page, I have videos on there, so self-help videos, and I talk about many different topics about, you know, how to be more empathetic in today's world. I have one about the stages of grief, the 5 stages of grief. And one of my chapters in here, chapter 3, is all about that because, you know, me speaking from personal experience, I've lost family members, and, you know, losing someone you care deeply about to death, it's life shattering, right? So there's a lot of stuff in here about that. And so if you go on to my Instagram page, I have videos. They're called Pep Talks with MK Mann. And it's basically me using my educator background, my psychology background, and just giving a lot of self-help tips and information and knowledge to others who may benefit from it.
Yeah. And then your book's on Amazon?
So my book is being sold on Amazon.ca, Amazon.com as well. And it's also in stores at the local chapters in Vancouver, as well as chapters Indigo online as well.
Awesome. Yeah. So any parting wisdom from a poet?
Parting wisdom from a poet. So most of these poems, they're written in free verse. Some of them have rhymes, some of them don't. Some are longer, some are shorter. But my tip would be for anyone who's interested in writing is just don't stop writing. Just write, 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 and don't give up on your dreams, because I was a little girl, like 8 or 9, and I loved to read. I mean, I was such a book nerd growing up. I grew up with 3 brothers, and they would always be on the TV, right, playing their video games, and I wouldn't get a chance. So that's how my love of books came to be. So I would go to the library and I would get books out and I would just read, read, read. So the top 2 things to do if you're an aspiring author is read as much as you can. Number 2, just write as much as you can. And there's no right or wrong way. It's art. Art is art.
Yeah,
Right?
because when I was writing, if you told me, Kevin, you got to write, okay, I can't write, right? But if I pick up a pen and start writing, I can write, meaning that I can't just write on the spot, but I can write for 2 hours if I could, because it's just, you're in the flow, right? And I'd ask, do you have like a treasure chest of all your writings since day one?
I do. I did have a binder full of like handwritten poetry, just with pencil and paper. And as I grew older, I just used to actually write on my laptop. But the other thing I noticed is I'm a night owl. And so my brain is very active at night. And so when I couldn't sleep, I would literally get my cell phone and go under notes. And I'd have the thoughts come in my head and I would just have to quickly type them out.
Yeah, when I wrote my book, I was writing from like 10 to 2. Like I wouldn't get my creative spike till like 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, right? I was the same way.
And I was a couple days ago, I was going through one of my file folders and I found all my jokes. So I need to file them better, right? But I was going through my last 7 years of stand-up jokes, right? And again, I never thought that I'd ever write a joke before, right? But I tried it, and but it reminds me of a great thing on Netflix. I think it's Seinfeld, no, Jerry Before Seinfeld or something like that. And there's a picture of him in a New York City block, and it's full of stickies, right? And I guess the premise of that is it's every joke that he's written, but it's just a city block in New York. The whole block is all different color stickies, right? And it's just a great illustration of, the writing process and that sort of thing, right? So, well, thank you very much for your time. It's a pleasure, and I will have your links and all that stuff, and I'm sure we'll talk again.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, MK.
Bye.